Karizma and the Bajaj Pulsar. It's a rivalry that is a classic tale in India's two-wheeler history, a battle that has spanned over 2 decades. These here are their latest iterations. But before we get on with these, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your likes and comments keep us going. Both brands, through their respective models, have continually vied for dominance in the entry sports bike segment, each with a loyal fan base. The Karizma, known for its refined performance and stylish design, became an icon for a generation of riders. On the other hand, the Pulsar, with its aggressive styling and powerful performance, appealed to those seeking thrill and speed. This rivalry has pushed both Hero and Bajaj to keep innovating and elevating their offerings, constantly reshaping the preferences and the expectations of the Indian bikers, the Indian buyers. These here, like I said, are their latest iterations, the new ones that enter this fierce competition. Here we have the Hero Karizma XMR 210, and here we have the Bajaj Pulsar N 250 in its updated avatar. From the design perspective, the Hero Karizma XMR and the Bajaj Pulsar N 250 continue to present distinct aesthetics catering to different tastes, just the way the predecessors did. Yet again is the Karizma with the more number of plastics. In fact, this time around they've gone with a full fairing, but the design leaves very little room for crash bobbins or frame sliders. And then you have these mirrors which look good, look very sporty, but they don't really fold unless you're going to use Allen keys. So that can become a bit cumbersome while negotiating traffic, especially in the bumper-to-bumper city traffic. And when you're out on the highway, you can cut a bit of that wind resistance with an adjustable visor. But the kind of concern that I had with it when I rode it for the first time, this button does get stuck in between sometimes, now that dust has started accumulating in it. The XMR isn't your typical sport tourer like its predecessors were, and has a compact, sporty form reminiscent of the Yamaha YZF R15, which also happens to be one of its primary competitors. The twin-pot LED headlight has better throw and spread than the Pulsar, but its sophisticated design has polarized onlookers. The pedal discs add to the oomph, and the XMR, like its predecessors, manages to turn more heads, especially in this shade of yellow. The Pulsar, on the other hand, sticks to tradition. It's a sporty, naked design. Yet, at the same time, it's a big departure from the design theme that we've seen on the preceding Pulsars. The single projector beam lamp, edgy and angular styling, and the absence of a windscreen underscore its fresh approach. And on the 2024 model, they've also thrown in new graphics. If windscreens and beefier bodywork is your sort of thing, then you might have to look at the aging Pulsar 220F, which still continues to be a crowd favorite, or maybe look at the F250 sibling for this motorcycle, which too is expected to get the same kind of upgrades and updates that the N250 has received for 2024. The upside-down forks, despite their slim 37mm diameter, add more meat to the Pulsar's design, making it look more imposing. The Karizma, on the other hand, looks lean and sporty. The Karizma is slightly heavier, likely due to its additional bodywork, and surprisingly has higher seats despite its compact appearance. But long-distance comfort for the rider is better in this saddle. Both the Karizma and the N250 have split-seat designs, but the Pulsar's rear seat is notably more comfortable for larger or side-standing pinions. In terms of fit, finish and paint quality, the Pulsar N250 appears to have a slight edge, and you're likely to have lesser creaks and rattles from these pedals compared to the Karizma. Reminds me of the early 2000s all over again. Both motorcycles have USB ports that are placed conveniently for charging devices that are in your tank bag, but the arrangement on the Pulsar seems safer, with the cable less likely to tangle with the handlebar compared to that of the Karizma. The metal tank on the Pulsar also opens up a wider range of tank bag options compared to the plastic tank on the Karizma. The Karizma comes with a smart-looking instrumentation, and you can also get one with an eSIM and connected tech if you see value in it. The Pulsar, on the other hand, is still playing catch-up in this department, and the new instrumentation follows the norm with Bluetooth connectivity telephony alerts, and turn-by-turn navigation. But as I always say, I would rather mount a phone with Google Maps for better navigation. And from that perspective, the standard handlebar on the Pulsar is more accommodating for a phone mount than the clip-ons on the Karizma. But as the points go, the Karizma scores higher in the features department for its smarter instrumentation and adjustable visor. Both the Hero Karizma XMR and the Bajaj Pulsar N250 emit robust, gruff tones from their exhausts. However, the Pulsar's growl stands out for its distinct and engaging sound, resonating more profoundly with enthusiasts who favor a more aggressive auditory profile. This preference in sound adds another layer to the bike's individual character and appeal.
On the powertrain front, both the engines are very closely matched in terms of their power and torque outputs. That said, the clutch on the Karizma feels a little bit heavy and can feel cumbersome while riding in the city traffic. And in terms of absolute throttle response, it does feel a bit restrained, a bit held back compared to the zestier feel on the Pulsar.
The Karizma stands out with its mid-range and top-end power, though it does experience vibrations beyond 5000 RPM. Its liquid-cooled engine and effective airflow through the fairing prevent overheating. Fuel efficiency is notable, with the Karizma offering around 38 km to a litre in the urban settings and 47 km to the litre on the highways. This efficiency, despite its compact 11-litre tank, allows for a comfortable range of 370 to 400 km. In terms of the fuel consumption, the Pulsar isn't as efficient, with approximately 36 km to a litre in the city and 45 on the highway.
The Pulsar definitely feels and is quicker off the mark. Even the mid-range is quite good, it pulls quite cleanly. But when it comes to the top-end performance, it doesn't quite match the Karizma. This one feels better in that department.
It manages the 0 to 100 km/h dash slightly quicker than the Karizma. While both motorcycles seem to have a similar ceiling for their top speeds, the Karizma feels more comfortable whizzing past 125 km/h. In the city, the Pulsar's clutch is a bit lighter though, but the gear shifts can feel a bit notchy. Its cooling system effectively manages engine heat. The Hero Karizma XMR and the Bajaj Pulsar N250 offer a vivid blend of agility and stability. Both the bikes sport MRF Zapper tires, but the bikes feel different in the way they handle.
Now, both these motorcycles employ almost similar rubber, MRF Zapper FY on this, Zapper FX on this. The tire sizes are slightly different. You get a 100 section front on the Karizma versus a 110 on the Pulsar. Of course, you can read that in the brochure as well. But what I'm trying to say here is, in terms of winding roads or fast flowing corners, the Karizma actually feels a lot more stable through the corner. Even direction changes at highway speeds feel much better on the Karizma, again highlighting the fact that this is the better highway operator. But when it comes to fast switchbacks or changing directions quickly, the Pulsar does a much better job. It feels more flickable in that sense. Now, it sort of mimics the effects of a shorter wheelbase compared to the Karizma, but the interesting fact is that in its previous avatar, it had the identical wheelbase to the Karizma, 1351 millimeters. However, with its update, it's somehow gone down to 1342. Now, in terms of the front end feel, it's a little bit better when you're attacking corners with the Pulsar. That's down to the wider tire and also the USD forks. However, sometimes on the braking, there is a bit of that skipping that you will feel on the front. The front feels a bit bouncy, especially on the undulated surfaces.
The Pulsar has a very light front end despite the beefy upside-down forks. And while some riders may not like it, the typical Pulsar maniacs will love it for the wheelies and other stunt sessions. No doubt it's the better stunt machine than the Karizma, continuing with the tradition yet again. Speaking of suspension, the setups on both bikes are pretty similar. 37mm forks up front and a monoshock at the rear. But the Pulsar has a cushier ride, feels slightly more forgiving, and seems to handle potholes better with its relaxed riding posture. On the straight roads though, we found the new Pulsar to have a bit of chatter, or low-frequency vibrations coming from its shiny new forks, and it was consistent on the different bikes we rode. Thankfully, it doesn't translate into any unnerving front-end feel or feedback when attacking the bends. Braking dynamics further distinguish these two motorcycles, despite similarities in the diameters of their disc brakes. The Pulsar stops a little bit quicker than the Karizma and has a more progressive feel at the lever. The Karizma brakes are excellent too, but the 2024 Pulsar 250 now edges ahead with a customizable ABS which allows you to choose between 3 modes: road for aggressive braking, rain for progressive braking but higher ABS intrusion, and an off-road mode where the rear ABS intervention is very negligible to allow sliding the rear wheel on gravel or dirt. The difference in the 3 modes isn't vastly noticeable, but it's a good safety system to have, is what I think. Another addition to the safety department is a basic traction control system which can also be turned off completely when you engage the off-road ABS mode. Do remember, the modes are for the braking system only and do not affect the traction control or the engine behavior in any way.
When the original Karizma and the original Pulsar debuted, they were the heartthrobs of the nation. Today, these models, their latest generations, they don't quite enjoy the same kind of aura. It's partly because there are a lot of options out there today, and partly because 200, 250cc engines don't really cut it. These motorcycles need at least 400cc or up to recreate that kind of magic. That said, both these model lines are soaked in history and emotion, so from a first-time buyer's perspective, there's a fine blend of nostalgia and modernity, and that should definitely attract a lot of newcomers to these brands, these lineages.
The Pulsar over the years has evolved tremendously. The N250 in particular offers vivacious spirit and versatile performance. Meanwhile, the Karizma, despite its highs and lows, has retained a certain legendary allure, which makes it even more desirable in its new form. As before, it also comes with a higher price tag though, and while it's a significant gap over the Pulsar, those looking for a sporty, full-fed machine are likely to spend that money because Bajaj simply doesn't have a 250cc machine to counter that particular form factor. But worshippers of naked motorcycles will appreciate the fact that despite the enhancements made to the Pulsar N250 in the suspension, braking, electronics and styling department, it costs more or less the same as before, making it the more value for money offering. So while we have to tally the points and pick out a winner, the thrill seeker in you won't go wrong picking either of them. It's a classic battle after all, and picking either side will ensure edge of the seat entertainment.